morning. Welcome sa press briefing ni Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, Malacañang Press Corps. We're pleased to have today Bureau of Internal Revenue Commissioner, Attorney Cesar Dulay. Prior to his appointment, he was the Commissioner of the Commission on Bar Discipline of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines from 1997 to 2007. He practiced litigation during his time in Puno and Puno Law Offices and Tanhuatco and Partners. He was also Corporate Secretary of Alcantara Group of Companies, Senior Assistant Vice President of Philippine Airlines, and Internal Legal Counsel of Agusan Wood Industries. He obtained his law degree from the Ateneo, and he was admitted to the bar in 71. Ladies and gentlemen of the Malacanang Press Corps, let us all give a warm welcome to our distinguished guest, Commissioner Cesar Dulay.
Thank you, Secretary Ernie. Good morning. Off the record, I'm more... Oh. Yeah, but I'm more nervous facing this group than the big crowds I've been facing going through the BIR regions. I thank you, and the BIR agency is happy to be able to share with you what is happening in the BIR. We'd like to start by informing you that in 2016, we had a collection of about 1.575 trillion. And this is about 95% of the goal, attainment of the goal that was given to the agency. This is about 9.5% growth rate against the 2015 collections. In terms of income tax collections, we were able to collect 924 billion, and the rest came from excise, VAT, and percentage taxes. Voluntary payments in the BIR is about 97%, and the rest of the collections we derive from law enforcement. Our goal for 2017 is 1.829 trillion. And to achieve the collection, we have to grow by 16% from our last year's collection performance. BIR itself must be able to increase collection by 15.5%. And non-BIR collections must also grow by at least 37%. What did we do in 2016? There were three priorities. First, we had to attain our collection targets, which was at 1.620 trillion. Then we had to go to some priorities on tax collection efforts. In 2016, to attain our collection target, we had to go back to the Run After Tax Evaders program. Tax administration cannot do without law enforcement. Otherwise, there would be no voluntary compliance on the part of taxpayers. So we had to continue this program of running after tax evaders, even if they contribute only about 3% of our total collections. We had to strengthen the Oplan Candado program when we investigate some of the taxpayers. The commissioner under the Revenue Code has the authority to close these businesses not paying and not complying with their tax obligations. We also went in 2016, continued in profiling the taxpayers so that we can focus more on this what we call taxpayer segmentation, that is classifying the taxpayers. As you know, we presently have the large taxpayer service, which contribute about 63% of the collections of the agency. Oh, incidentally, during our first days in office, that is in July, we implemented certain measures that would immediately impact on our fight against graft and corruption, and on one of our programs of making it easy for taxpayers to comply. We call it the Ease of Doing Business project. On the first day, we recalled all we stopped the audit program. We recalled all letters of authority and reviewed the status of these letters. As a result of this, we found out that there were a lot of LAs, you call them, pending in the hands of the revenue examiners for more than a year, 2 years even. And so we started issuing out letters. I started issuing out letters for them to explain why these letters of authority have been pending for so long. With the explanations coming in, we issued out explain why letters to them involving about 250 examiners, and most of them are now under investigation. We believe that move was effective in terms of delivering the message of the President that graft and corruption must go in the Bureau. Addressing the needs of the taxpayers, we started reviewing some revenue regulations. For example, the requirements on the issuance of certificates authorizing registration. We are able to cut down on the processing time for as long as the documents are complete from to about 2 days minimum and 5 days maximum. And this was received, I believe, favorably by the taxpayers and the tax practitioners. To be able to collect 1.829 trillion, we need people. We need personnel. So part of our program for 2017 is to go into a massive recruitment mode. The agency has at present a complement of about a little more than 9,000 personnel. Our approved plantilla is about 21,000. So you can see that we are operating only at 50% of the approved plantilla. We need examiners, CPAs, lawyers, to do the work and collection effort of the agency. So we ask Congress to exempt us from the implementation, from the coverage of the salary standardization law. Just to give you an example, we cannot compete with the other agencies of the government. For example, our hiring rate for CPAs, professionals, is about 19 to 20%, 20,000 pesos. You compare this to the hiring rate of the Securities and Exchange Commission. They were able to get out of the salary standardization law. The salaries of those in the Insurance Commission, their CPAs are hired at about 35 to 40,000 entry level. We need lawyers. The work of BIR is highly technical and you need competent personnel. We need to hire lawyers. But our hiring rate for lawyers is only at about 30 to 40,000 compared to the hiring rate of the other agencies, which ranges from about 55 to 60,000. So we have put in place a proposal, and a bill was sponsored by, I believe, the Speaker of the House, and it's now being tabled for consideration by the House. Senator Sani Angara has also sponsored a bill that will get us out of the salary standardization law. For this year, we have been, at the start of the year, we have been conducting what we call a kickoff tax campaign program. I have been to about 5 regions. I talked to the BIR personnel. We invited our taxpayers in the region, and I made this appeal and informed them about the targets of the region, of the Bureau for this year at 1.829 trillion. And I made an appeal for them to cooperate and help this administration, the government, to reach its goal so that the various programs of this administration, of the President, in terms of infrastructure, education, can be supported, at least by our revenue generation. I also made an appeal to our personnel, my fellow revenuers, to exert their best effort in trying to achieve the collection targets, and to remember that graft and corruption should be out in the Bureau. If we cannot eradicate it completely, we will minimize, and we will continue reiterating this program of the President on his fight against graft and corruption. Thank you.
Malacañang press corps question. Alexis Romero, Philippine Star. Microphone, please. Marisa, thank you.
Can I have this?
Yes.
Commissioner, so you missed the 2016 target. Bakit po?
Well, the 2016 target is 1.620. That was our collection was about 1.555, 1.565. That was 97%. I don't know if in the past the targets of the BIR had been achieved. But we'd like to say that in the 6 months that the new administration came in, we were able to sustain the growth rate of about a little more than 10% compared to the previous year, and we were able to sustain that. The figures or the information I receive is that traditionally after an election year, the growth rate goes down. In our case, while we have not achieved the goal, we were able to at least maintain that growth rate in our collection efforts.
So ano po yung weak areas na kailangang improve para ma-meet nyo na yung target this year?
We have to hire more people to do the collection. That's why we're asking Congress to get us out of the salary standardization.
Yung leakages kaya yung corruption sa collection may factor dun sa missed target.
It has to be. There has to be a factor, but as I mentioned, our collection, 97% is voluntary compliance. Only 3% contributes to our law enforcement efforts. I do not belittle the contribution of our law enforcement, but as I mentioned earlier, law enforcement has to go hand in hand with tax administration. Otherwise, voluntary compliance would not come on the part of taxpayers.
Last na lang po para sa akin. There's an existing lateral attrition law for BIR, and since hindi natin yung target, although at a narrow margin naman yata, meron bang masisibak sa pwesto ng mga revenue officials? Will heads roll?
The lateral attrition law, the last time I think it was passed in 2008, and the last time it was implemented was that year. For what reason, I do not know, but we have instructions from the Secretary of Finance to implement the attrition law because it's a law. We have to comply with it. And we're setting reasonable goals for our employees. We're in the process of working it out.
So heads will roll po.
Well, it depends
Depends on the
in their
extent.
performance and the reasons for not hitting their goals.
Salamat po, Commissioner.
Benji Liwanag, DCWB.
Sir, good morning.
Morning.
Sir, ngayong hindi pa naipapasa yung comprehensive tax reform package ng administrasyon, do you think achievable yung 1.829 trillion for your target this year?
I've been talking with our revenuers, our personnel, and they're confident that we can hit or will try to hit it. Remember, we hit 1.5 plus trillion for 2016 with a 50% plantilla.
50%, yeah.
Yes, so if we can go into a massive hiring, then we'll most probably hit that.
With your assessment, 250 examiners are now being investigated. Paano po yung mga directors ng mga nasa taas nitong mga examiners? Will, yung kagaya po ng sinabi ni Alexis, magkakaroon din po ba ng rigodon, Commissioner?
We already had one, the regional directors. Usually at the start of the year, we reshuffle the regional directors, so that has already been implemented.
Ano pong pinaka mahirap na region that you're facing right now? What is yung challenge ng region na kailangan linisin, Commissioner?
We have small regions like CAR, the excuse me, Cordillera Administrative Region. That covers Kalinga, Bontoc, Ifugao, Apayao, Benguet, and Abra. You need collectors. Because of the lack of personnel, one collector, the ideal is one collector for one municipality. In CAR, you have one collector covering 3 or 4 municipalities. if you know the area in car, those municipalities are not very close to each other. And even the travel time. So my dialogue with the personnel of CAR, they raised this point. Even in terms of their allowance, I have to discuss this with the Department of Budget and COA. Those are the challenges that we are facing.
Thank you very much, sir.
Chona, you?
Sir, just would like to know, from June to December 2016, how many tax evasion cases were filed and how many were convicted, kung meron?
June to December,
Duterte administration.
we started, I think, in late December only, because we were reviewing the rate, the tax cases. For this month, for 2017, if I'm not mistaken, we have about 10 rate cases filed already. We have about 400 plus pending rate cases with the Department of Justice. So I have to sit down with Secretary Aguirre, although I have been talking with Yusek Richico, the group that is now in place in the prosecution service, and we have to come out with a working arrangement on how to resolve these many rate cases filed.
Sir, sabi niyo kanina, BIR is in need of CPAs and lawyers. How can you attract lawyers and CPAs if you're offering lower salary compared to other government agencies?
That's why we're asking Congress to get us out of the salary standardization law, so that if the bill is passed, we would like to seek authority to create our own salary levels and standards and positions, and probably get the President to approve by way of an executive order our proposals.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Ina Andulong, CNN Philippines.
Good noon, sir. Sometime in January, Secretary Dominguez shared that 2 RDOs were fired after he said he caught them red-handed harassing people for money. Can you give us maybe, sir, a brief update on your efforts to go after your corrupt officials? How many have actually been fired or dismissed from their posts? Dalawa lang po ba yun yung nabanggit ni...
The 2 RDOs were transferred actually from their positions. As of now, I don't recall any RDO being dismissed or fired. But I do get, because of 888, a lot of information about them and some complaints. What I do is I call them personally and talk to them and confront them with this complaints. If the explanation is satisfactory, and sometimes I can see that they have a good explanation, then I don't take any formal action. But my message to the RDOs and to all the employees and officers, even the revenue examiners, is that if I get a complaint from 888 or even anonymous complaint, they'll sure to be, I will surely confront them and I'll listen to them and see how they explain it. It's not something that should just go away. They have to know that we are on top of these complaints and we are acting on these complaints.
Sir, Secretary Dominguez never mentioned saang RDO yung nabanggit niya. Saan po ba sila?
Maybe it's safer that if we keep it at that level muna.
Thank you,
It's
sir.
not fair to them too.
Okay, MPC, questions? Maricel Halili, TV5.
Sir, just a clarification, because recently there was a report that about 300 employees of BIR already resigned or retired because
Yes.
of the efforts of BIR against corruption. Can you enlighten us about this, sir?
This is what actually happened. During my first day of office, flag ceremony, I was able to talk to the employees of the BIR. And I delivered the message that my mandate coming from the President is to clean up the Bureau and to fight graft and corruption. My message to them was this: I know that there are professionals and competent personnel in the BIR, but just like in a basket, you have the good tomatoes and the bad tomatoes. So I said for the bad tomatoes that infect the whole agency, I suggested that they either resign or retire if there's an optional retirement available to them, or compulsory retire. Now, I don't know if they got the message, but the numbers are there. We have about a little less than 300 who have resigned, either resigned, optionally retired, and compulsorily retired. For reasons of their own, maybe some are just too tired, maybe others got the message, and so they resigned, and they opt to retire.
So, sir, not necessarily mean that they are involved in corruption?
Does not necessarily mean.
Okay, but do you see or meron po bang ibang mga employees that you are eyeing right now or investigating with regards pa rin dun sa mga cases?
Oh yes, it's a
Do we
continuing
have a
effort.
rough estimate, sir, as to
I
how
don't have
many?
it now, but there is a continuing effort to look into these cases, into these complaints especially. I'm swamped with 888 complaints, and we're acting on it. It's a little difficult if you spend your time just addressing this, but we have our communications group addressing the complaints.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. MPC, more questions? Pia Ranyada, Rappler. Microphone, PS, in front. Thank you.
Sir, just to clarify on the 888 complaints, sir, you mentioned that when you get a complaint, you confront the person and then they give an explanation, and if it's satisfactory, you don't do anything anymore. So, sir, what's your basis for saying that their explanation is satisfactory? Doesn't it make it easy for people who are actually guilty to maybe talk their way out of the complaint? Like, isn't there any investigation launched if because if they ask to explain, syempre they might be able to talk their way out of it.
Most of the complaints are anonymous. And my message to the employees is you better watch out if I see that the explanation is justifiable. But I just told them that you better careful with your job from here on, because even anonymous complaints can be forwarded to the ombudsman because they act on anonymous complaints. So they should be more careful in their dealings with taxpayers. Some are just plain complaints. They fail to comply with some documentary requirements, and they complain that there are too many requirements being asked by the revenue district officers. But upon checking, these are really reasonable requirements of the agency.
And sir, what kinds of complaints alarm you the most?
Complaints mostly in delay in the processing of their papers. That's why we're glad to inform, as you have seen during our first day in office, one of the biggest complaints was the delay in the issuance of the certificates of authorizing registration on ONET transactions. We were able to address that at least 2 days minimum, 5 days maximum issuance. It's not 100% effective, but for those complaints that I received, we call the attention of the district concerned, and they address it, and they try to work out what the complaint is all about.
Sir, would you remember how many of the 888 complaints and then the person who was the subject of the complaint explained to you the reason, and how many of these explanations did you decide were not satisfactory and prompted you to launch an investigation?
The numbers I cannot remember. We're swamped. We're swamped with these complaints coming from the civil service also, and we're being monitored on how we dispose of these complaints, how we address, and we give reports to the Civil Service Commission also on how we have been disposing these complaints. Some are answered by way of letters, so we forward these letters to the Civil Service Commission.
Okay, thank you, Pia. Benji Liwanag.
Sir, talking about the taxpayer, on the part of the taxpayer, there are always familiarity between the collector and also some business establishments. Are we also having a problem with some of the taxpayers because they don't pay the right taxes? Are you evaluating right now or assessing on this matter?
Oh yes, that's why we have the rate and the Oplan Candado program. Only, I think this afternoon, we will be filing a rate case involving an establishment at Glorieta 5. They have not been responding to the requests of the examiners. And we cannot stop. We have to continue law enforcement activities. Before I got in, of course, the stories that there is connivance between the taxpayer, the tax practitioner, and some people in the BIR. In fact, I got a complaint and I called the attention of the revenue district officer and the revenue examiner. I told them, I got them to the office and they explained. It was satisfactory. That was what I was saying, that the message has to go down to our agency, our fellow revenuers, that we will not let the past practices go by without calling their attention.
Do we have the numbers right now, the taxpayers that you're going to file cases?
We have, we have about the Regional Investigation Division, RIDs we call them, and the National Investigation Division. I just met with them 2 days ago and they are readying about 7 or 8 new cases to be filed. My mandate is, I do not believe that there are no violations in your region. So I told them, you exert extra effort. I'd like to see at least one rate case being filed by the region a month, as long as it's defensible and justifiable.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Benji. Raymond Tinasa, Bombo Radio.
Hi, sir. Nimbagnal daw. Sir,
Morning.
itanong ko lang kung meron ba kayong listahan ng mga top 10 siguro, lalo na sa corporate, na mga tax evaders. Yung mga multi-billionaires, I understand, marami yung may mga pending cases pa sa korte ngayon. So for now, as your administration, meron ba kayong listahan ng mga parang pinaka-notorious na tax evader na mga korporasyon?
I have a list of about 400 cases filed with the DOJ. Mga tax evaders yan. And that's available. I don't know which ones are notorious, but if you look at yung amount, the assessment involved, it could be hundreds of millions also. So that's what we want to address right now with the Department of Justice, to move yung cases.
Sir, so far, sa ngayon dahil sa dinami-dami ng kaso na yan, meron na bang tumawag sa inyo, nagparamdam na kumpare ako ni Digong, kumpare ako ni ES, kumpare ako ni Secretary. May tumawag na ba? May nagparinig na ba sa inyo ng mga ganun na mga may kinakaharap na tax evasion?
I don't recall, pero maraming tumatawag sa akin. Marami, hindi lang ilan. And I'm proud to say this. This is what the President told me in one of those few times that I am beside him. Sabi niya, you continue doing your work. Ang lamang natin is wala tayong pinag-uutangan. Wala tayong pinagkakautangan. So, I leave it at that. I get a lot of calls, but sure, I don't want to be bastos naman to them. So, I just listen to them.
Ano mga sinasabi usually, sir?
Ha?
Ano mga sinasabi?
Oh, nila?
Oo.
O ako? Well, some on positions, some if we can, they have a existing case. Some just come without any name dropping. That's why we also have an expanded compromise settlement program. I don't know if you heard about that. We are encouraging, we have a lot of cases. For example, 2012 and below that have not been resolved because offers of compromise have to go to a national evaluation board. And we're working on that because it will also affect the accounts receivable folio of the BIR if we don't dispose of it. There are a lot of considerations. Primary consideration is that I can compromise based on financial incapacity at 10%, doubtful validity at 40%. Those are all authorized by the code, by the Internal Revenue Code. If I have that discretion given to me, then I encourage the taxpayers to compromise and clean up their cases so that they can start fresh with the Bureau.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Questions, MPC? No more. Thank you, BIR Commissioner Cesar Dulay, Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella.
Thank you, ma'am. Oh, sorry.
Morning. We have a number of items we'd like to share. The BBC just rated the Philippines among the world's top 5 most welcoming countries. The Philippines is among the 5 world's most welcoming countries, according to the British Broadcasting Corporation. It cited the Philippines' going out culture, which gives expats plenty of opportunities to make friends. The Department of Tourism reported that almost 6 million tourists arrived last year, compared to 5.3 million in 2015. Excuse me. We hope to boost visitor arrivals to 12 million by the end of the president's term in 2022 through the private sector investments. Based on our National Tourism Development Plan of 2016 to 2022, the Duterte administration aims to create 6.5 million jobs in the tourism sector in the next 5 years, or the equivalent of 14.4% share of tourism jobs. Also, Hitachi to keep up Philippine operations. We welcome the announcement made by one of the top 10 Japanese companies, Hitachi, saying that the company will continue to incessantly operate its business in the Philippines. Mitsuhiko Shimizu, Hitachi Asia Philippines branch general manager, stated that the Philippines' young population is one of the most appealing factors for the investors to do business in the country. To attract more foreign investments and to create more jobs for Filipinos, the Duterte administration continuously ramps up infrastructure spending and eases the cost of doing business in the Philippines. Also, the SSS to release 1,000 pesos additional benefit on March. Good news to the 2.2 million SSS retirees, survivors, and permanently disabled pensioners. They will start receiving the additional 1,000 peso benefit on March 3, including the retroactive increase in January and February. We're open to a few questions.
Laila Salaveria.
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
can we just get a confirmation? Kasi Senator Soto confirmed the president met with several senators the other night. What was the topic of the meeting and who called the meeting in the first place?
What I can share with you is that there's no truth to the allegation of Senator De Lima that the senators were pressured by Malacañang with regard to the reopening of the investigation of the DDS. As Senator Soto said, a group of senators met the president, but they did not talk about the case of retired police officer Las Cañas.
But what was the agenda of the meeting? And did the president call the senators to meet with him?
That I cannot answer. It's simply that they had a meeting. Usually these things are requested.
Requested usually by the senators.
Usually, people ask to meet with the president. That usually is the trend, yes.
Sir, why would they not discuss the issue of Las Cañas? I mean, was it just a coincidence that the meeting took place after he came out?
There are other things to talk about. Thank you.
Sir, last na, who else was in the meeting, if you know?
Not sure. Except, I think there was a photo op, right?
I mean, we didn't see any.
You're not informed. Okay. But as far as I know, these were just the named senators. Those, whoever was there. They were named. They were not named? Okay. Anyway, senators.
Last na,
Yes,
what's
ma'am.
the palace position on the impending Senate investigation into Las Cañas' revelations?
They can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions, MPC? Pia Ranyada, Rappler.
Yes.
Sir, I asked you this last week. Just want to get the palace reaction on the U.S. citizenship issue faced by Foreign Secretary Yasay, and he was again subjected to a CA hearing yesterday, and the hearing was again deferred for another time because of these issues. So would the palace already have a statement?
This is not a formal statement, except that it's in effect it's a non-issue simply because Secretary Yasay has already explained the intricacies of what actually happened. So it's valid, but so in a sense, in effect, it's really a non-issue. He was never ever a U.S. citizen. Yes.
Sir, how can it be a non-issue when his appointment was deferred precisely because of this issue?
Wasn't it because there was a
Yes, sir.
recess? Because there was a recess or something like that?
No, sir, because nga they wanted to see about this claim that he used to be a U.S. citizen, but he denied it before. And yet the U.S. released a document listing him as a former citizen.
Okay. Would you like me to go through the process? Let me
We
tell
can
you.
do it posterior later after, if it's a very long.
No,
I can
basically
bring it
it was. He said that during, as far as I know, and this is anecdotal. Okay, this is basically anecdotal. When during the martial law years, seeing that it seemed that there was no possibility for him to progress and prosper here, I think he was what do you call it? By his wife. He was come again? Petitioned, yeah. And I think he went through the process. And however, when things changed in the Philippines, he decided to drop it. But he dropped it by coming back to the Philippines, which is essentially breaking the laws for applying for green cards. So technically, he was already disqualified. So there was never, but the process continued, and that is why he was declared by the U.S. to be a citizen. However, because the process had already proceeded. However, he had already broken it, so there was no call for him to become a citizen.
Sir, you said he was declared by the U.S. as a citizen, so you're saying he was a citizen?
No, technically, but that had to be confirmed. Remember that you're how do you put it? Having gone through the process, it just goes on and says I don't have the right terms for that. He was qualified or something like that, but it had to be confirmed. It was never confirmed because he had already broken the process.
Sir, just last. So you're saying this was the explanation from Secretary Yasay.
This was an anecdote. Come again?
To you? Tama ba?
This was an anecdotal. This was an anecdote relayed to me through a secondary. Yeah,
All right.
it's
Thank
not
you.
hearsay. It came from the office. Okay.
Cedric Castillo, GMA7.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. Kuha lang po ko na reaction nyo, sir, on Senator De Lima saying that it's in fact the president who is committing acts of sedition by having people kill each other daw po, allegedly.
She's really entitled to her own opinions. Yes.
Alright. Sir, SOJ Aguirre po said that there allegedly was an attempt to bribe 100 million pesos, I think yung amount po, yung high-ranking, high-profile inmates po sa AFP Custodial Center, not to recant yung testimony nila, parang recently by a congressman and a former senator. I'd like to get your reaction, sir.
It has to be verified, but since it came from the SOJ, from the Secretary of Justice, then apparently it has some credibility.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, questions? Ina, then Laila.
Yes.
Sir, I just want to go back to the meeting with the senators. So what other issues could they have talked about?
We're not privy to that. It was a closed meeting.
And just for the record, sir, are you aware of who initiated that meeting? Did the president call for it, or did the
No,
senators?
I am not
actually?
aware of who. But like I said, usually the process is somebody asks to meet with.
Okay. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you, Ina. Laila?
Sir, the program for the EDSA commemoration released to us does not include the president. Is this official confirmation he won't be showing up tomorrow at Camp Aguinaldo?
I think the release said that it would be the ES, that it would be ES who would be representing him. Yes.
But what will the president be doing tomorrow? And will he be attending any EDSA commemoration event at all?
I think that he has some sort of a surprise for that. Yeah. But if you're asking what will he be doing tomorrow, there's going to be the Bangsamoro transition thing in Davao. Yes.
Any mass action in Davao related to the EDSA commemoration?
As far as I know, none.
Don't.
No.
Thank you.
Okay. MPC questions? Maricel Halili?
Sir, may we know what